All right, so good morning and welcome everybody. Thank you for joining us. I am Tanya Belter, the VP of Member Services with the Fox Cities Chamber, and this webinar is part of our Stronger Together series. So this morning we are excited to welcome Chris Burns from Be Connected. Chris will be talking about digital marketing in the post-COVID-19 era. We are building out the Stronger Together webinar series as a part of a campaign to further support businesses in the community, as well as the community as a whole. So that includes a resource page on our Fox Cities Chamber website. If you could take a moment to check that out, there's a lot of great information there, as well as a continuing webinar series with events being hosted on Tuesdays and Thursdays. We'll be adding to that campaign as the weeks go on, so we encourage you to stay tuned to our chamber website for more information. But for today, I'll be handing it over to Chris. Chris will be sharing information for approximately the first 40 to 45 minutes of our time together, during which feel free to use the chat function. If you have any questions at all, we'll get those over to Chris for him to answer. Otherwise, you will receive a recorded version of today's event when we wrap up. Within that, we'll also include a survey, and we welcome you to provide us with information on topics that may be of interest to you going forward. So with that being said, I'll hand it over to Chris.
Awesome. Thanks, Tanya. And thank you everyone for showing up. You guys are having a great morning. So my intention with this presentation is to cover as much as I can. I'm going to go pretty deep on the social media side and just kind of scratch the surface on some other things like digital marketing tactics, from email to search engine optimization and that. And I encourage anyone who has questions to ask either during the using the chat feature or after in the Q&A. I'm hopeful to have as much time available for anyone who has questions they'd like to ask. And without further ado, I'll jump right into the presentation. Okay, so we're going to talk about digital marketing, specifically social media in a post-COVID-19 world. And for those of you who aren't familiar with Be Connected, we are a social media management company located in downtown Appleton. We have a satellite office in Milwaukee, and we do just about everything related to social, from photography, video, advertising, brand management, listening, now into podcasting, and anything that falls under that social media umbrella, we do it. And that's our specialty. That's our wheelhouse. So let's talk about the important stuff that you came for, which is the current state of social. So now that we're in COVID-19, what's happening? What do we see for trends? Is a really big question that I'm getting right now. And with social distancing in place, social platforms have seen a 20 to 50% increase in usage. No surprise, right? And I think we'll see that continue to rise as this quarantine continues, as people probably have seen all the Netflix shows that they've wanted to watch, and there's not much else to do, right? Facebook reported total messaging increased 50% in the month of March alone. TikTok saw a 96% increase in year-over-year downloads, which again is not surprising. It's probably one of the hottest social media platforms right now, primarily with the younger 25 and under demographic. And then 45% of global consumers are spending more time on messaging services. So again, no big surprise here that we're in more of a one-to-one world. It doesn't seem like it because we're digital, but people are still looking to connect just as much as anything. Now, the closest thing I could draw parallel to in the sales perspective was that as of last week, Nike saw online sales grow by 30% in China. And so if they're starting to see sales increase where all of this started, it gives me reason to believe that we will continue to see that in the near future once this passes, hopefully in the next couple of weeks. Now, the next thing would be, we know kind of the current state of social media. It's not going anywhere. It's increasing in popularity. More businesses are continuing to use it. So what shouldn't you do right now? The big thing is don't panic. Don't be pessimistic. You want to make sure you're not making this political in any way, shape, or form, even with the elections that have just passed or around the corner. And then don't stop posting. I've seen this with a lot of businesses that are currently shut down. And if you are, because you're not an essential business, it doesn't mean you should stop posting or stop connecting with your clients. It is critical because the big question that people ask when they see a gap in posting or communication is, are they still in business? What are they doing? Why aren't they communicating? As we talk about selling, there are a lot of businesses, essential or not, that want to sell, and they need to sell to stay in business. And so hard selling is one that we want to encourage people to stay away from, especially in the current economic climate. And we're going to get into some ways that you can sell by indirectly selling a little later on. And then also, don't think that promotions are going to fix any lack of sales that you have because of this pandemic. There are a lot of ways to go around fixing that, but we can't be in a sales focused mind, particularly on social, because nobody actively wants to be sold, whether it's watching a television commercial or looking at an ad on social media. All right, what to do? Let's take a deep breath. Let's be optimistic, particularly with your messaging on social media. I think it's always good to be the leader and be the one that's optimistic, clearly with your copy as well as with your visuals. Put an emphasis on helping others selfishly. That's one that we often have this focus of sales and promotions and getting people into our store, but ultimately in some industries, especially B2B, connecting dots and helping people is one of the clear ways to build community online. If you're going to do anything differently, it's important to start with a plan, and we're going to talk about how you can build one here in the upcoming slides. If you have extra time now, you probably didn't before, but this is probably one of the few times where you have a little extra time. It's time to update that website. Make sure that it's not stale. Get creative. Try some new things, whether it be with social media or email marketing or with your website. Connect with your clients. We're doing a lot of that right now with Zoom meetings and Google Hangouts. It's free, it's inexpensive, and we're learning more things about their family because kids will pop into a Zoom meeting unexpectedly and start crying. If you're anything like me, that is. Okay, so here's the good news about all of this is that in the coming weeks or hopefully month or less, things are bound to change and businesses are bound to change, and that's a good thing. But if you use this time to learn, to improve, to evolve your business, it will be, and people will be better for it. And so let's look forward to a brighter future, and let's use this time to improve our marketing, specifically digital marketing tactics and strategy. So a lot of times we get into digital marketing, and it'd probably be helpful if I put my presentation in presenter mode. Sorry about that. A lot of people ask me about the digital marketing channels. What should I be doing? What shouldn't I be doing? And that answer is going to vary by industry and by business. There's no right or wrong answer necessarily, but for most businesses, you can start with website updates. If you didn't have time before, hopefully you have time now. And if you don't have time now, when are you going to make time to update some of your digital marketing? So we talk about updates. What does that mean? Well, refresh your copy. If your website hasn't been touched in a couple of years, there's a good chance you have new products, new service, new team. Maybe you're bigger, you've grown, you've moved. It's important to keep that fresh because people go back to your website, they want to see something new. And it shouldn't be the same old stale story. Things can be updated and refreshed, and they should. Pricing can be updated. Adding new photos, new video. If you've been in business for more than a couple of years, chances are you've got something new. And it's important to keep that website updated because when you look at SEO, which is search engine optimization, that is the algorithm that Google looks at to index your site. And that algorithm determines what site is first on the first page or fifth on the second page. And ultimately, there's a few things you can do. I am not the foremost SEO expert, but Google wants to know that you have a good site that's well built, that has good speed, that has no broken links, that forms are working, that you have good tags, good meta descriptions. We'll dive into that a little bit later, but it's important to make sure that the site functions and is up to date. Other things that most businesses could and should be doing, email marketing. You can utilize platforms like MailChimp, Constant Contact, and there's a lot more that in some cases are free for a specific amount of people that you send them to. And this is a great time to revamp that. Social media audit, we're going to jump into that. Ultimately, you should know what's working, what's not. The management, which is the posting and the strategy, and then the advertising, which is also very critical in today's world. So make sure you have a marketing mix, a mixture of different marketing tactics, because like anything, this is a recipe and it requires several different ingredients to find success. So don't expect to do one thing and have an abundance of success. You'll find success by doing a lot of these things and doing them well. Let's start with email. I saw this the other day and I found it hilarious, because if any of you are like me and you've got multiple email addresses, you're getting, dozens of communication responses from businesses you haven't heard from in years. And it's like, oh, I am so important because these businesses want to hear from. They want to tell me what's happening in their world. So it says some brand we apparently gave our email to 3 or 4 years ago wants us to know they're here for us in this difficult time. Well, they came out of nowhere because they felt like they needed to. I would say that, don't be this brand. If you're going to send email communication, do it regularly. Don't just do it because you feel like you need to once every 4 or 5 years. Have a plan behind it. Otherwise, people like this consumer will be put off by it. So let's talk about email marketing. There's a lot of things you can do, which is update your email lists. You can also segment your lists. Segmenting means if you are a business that sells to consumers and sells to businesses, and sells to nonprofits, you could have a category, a segment for each one. So you don't necessarily want to send all of your email communication to your nonprofits or your consumers, but you might want to have different communication for each channel. And that's important because not every segment wants to hear about some of the other things that are going on in your business. And so we talk about being effective and talking to the right people. You can craft a message for that segment. It's a good time to create a new template. Again, very inexpensive, something that you can do within the MailChimp or within Constant Contact. They have lots to choose from. And it's a good time, the best time to get a refresh on that. And then if you're going to be diving in, if you're going to use this as a regular form of digital marketing, create a schedule or a frequency. Once a month is more than sufficient, unless maybe you're an e-commerce or online business that requires more. You don't want to overdo it with people, but only you know the right mix when it comes to frequency. And then businesses always want to ask, what should we share? What should we communicate? The first thing that in times of the virus and the pandemic, it's important to have empathy for those impacted. You may not have been, but chances are a lot of people who have been impacted. So it's important to practice empathy first. Second, regardless of the current times or the current climate, is always be a resource by educating and informing people. You can share new developments and offerings that have happened since the start of this virus, or maybe since last year. You can use emails for running social campaigns. You can also take some of your best performing content from social media for the last month and put it into your email. It doesn't have to be a long newsletter, but just some updates to stay in touch and stay top of mind with your clients and prospective clients. Another one is to be vulnerable. Regardless of any kind of marketing, it's important to be vulnerable and tell your quarantine story. We all have one. We're all in this together, as much as that sounds cliche. But ultimately, those are things that are interesting, and that's what helps people connect with brands, not so much sales and discounts. And then finally, tell people what your business is doing to stay safe and to keep people safe. Because moving forward, people are going to be apprehensive, they're going to be nervous, and they want to know that your business is taking the proper precautions to keep that stuff top of mind. Let's move into SEO, search engine optimization. Again, this is one slide, and we can't even begin to scrape the surface. There's so much more to discuss, but it's the process of increasing the quality and quantity of website traffic to your website through the search engines. So Google, Bing, whatever you might use that we don't know about. But the components are wide and vast. So some of the most important ones I've listed below, which is checking site speed, quality reviews. So Google reviews and social media reviews are counted. That's kind of how they quantify the legitimacy of your business and what consumers think of your business. They want to know, is your website mobile friendly? Does it work well and display well on mobile phones and on tablets? Quality content, meaning photos and videos, number of inbound links, so the amount of websites that are pushing traffic to your site. So if you have links from the chamber, links from the CVB or other blogs and directories, again, that points to a quality, reputable site. There are things like keywords, making sure that what people search for, you will come up for. And if those keywords are listed on your site, again, you're likely to show up on the first or second page of Google. But again, this is just like the recipe. You can't do any one of these things or two of these things and expect to be on the first page of Google. For some of us, it's not possible to beat out a TripAdvisor and Yelp and get to the first page. But again, it's a long-term recipe. It's a process, and it takes a lot of time. But this is the best time to start with SEO. So let's jump into social media strategy. And I ask this question a lot, excuse me,
Hey, Chris.
because I want to, yeah.
There's a question from Ann Thielman in regards to the best place to ask for reviews, whether that's on Google, Facebook, or somewhere else. Could you touch on that a little bit?
I'm sorry, you cut out. Could you repeat that?
Sure. In the chat feature, Ann Thielman had asked a question in regards to the best place to ask for reviews. Is it best to ask for those through Google, through Facebook, or through somewhere else?
Great question. So it all kind of varies. In my opinion, I own another consumer-facing business, and I like to have a wide variety of reviews on all the various platforms, from Yelp to TripAdvisor to Google, Facebook. And that may vary by industry. It may be more important if you're a realtor, you don't need to be on Yelp. Now, that's probably not adequate, and you're probably not going to be on TripAdvisor. So your two primary forms of reviews are going to be Google and Facebook, I'm guessing, unless I'm missing something. There could be a realtor site that I don't know about. And so I would push them to both. And I would ask people, whether it be through a business card. I've got one where they can scan a QR code, and believe it or not, those are coming back. And when you go to the QR code and you scan it, a website pops up and says, would you like to review, in this case, Ann Thielman? They say yes, and they can click to either one, and it gives them instructions on how to do it. You can also ask them in your email marketing. You can ask them in person. You can send them a direct message on Facebook or Google. And it's important, though, that you explain to them why you're asking. And in this case, say, by getting more reviews, it will help me show up higher in Google search rankings, and more people will see me, and I'll be able to interact hopefully with more people. And this can greatly impact my business if you would take 30 seconds out of your day to leave me a review. And so it is important, because I've had people ask me and I say, why? And it's just, well, we want more. Well, that's great. But if people understand why, and they know you have a goal to get to from maybe like 10 to 100, people may be more inclined to help you achieve that goal. So try to quantify it, make sure they understand why. And then if they do, certainly thank them. I don't necessarily recommend incentivizing people or making a big campaign to ask everybody you know, because that doesn't feel very authentic. But if you're a realtor and you're doing it on a one-to-one basis, and you're just continually asking, a couple people every day, then over time you'll gradually move up the ladder from 10 to 20, from 20 to 50, and so on and so forth. And if you have more questions on that, I'm happy to jump in after the presentation. Okay, strategy. So the big thing is with social media, we see so many people doing it. Some people do it well, and some people don't do it so well. But most of them who don't do it well, and even some of them who do it well, don't have a strategy. They're just kind of posting because they feel they need to, because they feel obligated, or because there's something to share. And in this case, if you're a non-essential business or things are just slow in general, you feel obligated to post because you need business and revenue. But the big thing is have a plan, have a strategy, and like anything, this recipe, there's a lot of components to this strategy. So let's dive into what makes up this strategy. The first thing before you make a plan is you have to know what's working. So you have to audit your current social media presence. And that's something that we probably don't take enough time to do, even people who work in the marketing industry. And so the big thing is diving in there. Does your bandwidth match your activity? Meaning, if your goals are to post 5 times a week, but you only have maybe 30 to 45 minutes tops, your bandwidth, your time does not allow to meet your goals. So you have to make sure that the expectations are matched with the amount of time available. Also, is your business strategy driving your social, would be a question I have. So a lot of times there are business goals, which are hiring people. It might be to focus on branding. It might be to put a push on health and wellness. Whatever it is, you can implement some of those communication plans into social media. Because don't forget that if you're a big company, you are talking to your current employees. You're talking to prospective employees who might want to apply. You're talking to current prospective clients, community people. And so you can't just focus all on sales, but you should be working and thinking about communicating to all those different segments, just like we talked about in email marketing. So make sure that, yes, those goals are still relevant and still show up in your social media. And we can put an emphasis on talent acquisition through social. Are your profiles optimized? This is a time, we'll talk about this later on, but hopefully your social media pages are up to date, have current phone number, email, address, because if you're a restaurant, people want to know if you're open, if they can get their takeout. Are you active? Just because your business might be shut down doesn't mean you shouldn't be posting at least once a week. And let people know what your plan is when you do open, what's going to change. Responding to comments and questions. You can't just start responding to comments and questions and expect that you're going to build a community. So make sure that you are active, but you audit your page, you'll know whether or not you're active or you're responsive. And then, are you posting original creative content? I know a lot of people post, but they're posting third-party blogs, they're posting stock images, and those are things that just do not resonate with people. It's like social media management not trying. And it's filler content, for lack of better words. And so if you're going to dive in and you're going to have a strategy and you're going to invest time and resources, it's important that you create content or document some of the cool things your business is doing. And then how does your business compare to the competition? I don't encourage anyone to look over their shoulder and constantly be looking at their competitors. But if you look and you see they're doing a good job, that should motivate you to up your game on social media. You might also get some ideas that you say, hey, we could do Facebook Lives too, but we could do them differently. We could do them better. And then finally, ads budget. It's really important with organic reach declining that you have some kind of an ads budget. This is part of the audit, which is looking at your demographics. A lot of businesses are surprised to see who their audience is. And if you don't know who your audience is, you're going to end up just talking at them and not with them. It's happened to me personally where I thought my audience was 50-50 and I find out it was almost 80% female. And you say, oh, well, I could tailor my copy and I could tailor my visuals differently if I knew the audience. And so it's not just male, female, but also age brackets. And you can get this in your Facebook Insights tab. This is free, available to everyone. And it will change. If your page is going to continue to grow, your audience is going to continue to change. So make sure that you know who your audience is. This is your analytics. And again, if you're going to audit your page, look to see what kind of growth you have, when people are active, best time to post. Facebook has recommendations in here, engagement. And if you write it down and you know what it is now, and you can compare it to what it is 2 months down the road, you'll know whether or not you're improving in terms of engagement and page growth. I put a little formula down at the bottom so you can calculate what your engagement rate is. And it is important to know, but don't be discouraged by that because it's not uncommon that the engagement rate on social media is 5% tops. And that's just the way that they're going. It's becoming more of a pay-to-play platform. Okay, we talk about a goals and strategy. It's important if you're going to have a plan to create some KPIs, some goals and objectives that are measurable. And here's a couple examples. It's, increasing web traffic is a very common generic one. Increasing hits to a landing page, increasing the number of incoming job applicants through a website. We've seen anything from sales, vanity metrics, which are, more likes, more comments, more shares. There's a wide variety of options, and there's ultimately no right or wrong answer, but make sure you have something that you can use to hold yourself accountable when you have this social media strategy. This is what a very basic roadmap or strategy could look like, and I'm happy to share this with anybody who wants it. You can connect with me after, but it's a statement that just says, hey, our business, XYZ business, is going to use social 3 to 5 times a week to help talent acquisition, to help community awareness, and to help drive in-store sales or online sales. And then you talk about what your specific goal is, measurable goal in each one of those categories, and how it might vary from platform to platform, and then how you're going to track it quarter to quarter. So again, something you or your boss can use to hold you accountable. And again, it's a plan. And coming out of this post-COVID-19, you're looking for some new ideas and suggestions. Make sure that you start with this. It's a great place to start to modify that plan and create one if you don't have one already. So now that we're talking about strategy and the audit, what are we specifically going to do with content moving through this post-COVID-19 world? How do you start, or how do you restart? How does this impact your social? Well, good questions. And we're going to show you what some other businesses are doing. But first, if you need to sell, and selling is a big part of your business like it is for most of us, let's take the selling aspect out. I think that people want to do business with companies that they trust, that they value, that have a good reputation, that are reliable, that people like, that are successful. And so how do you build that reputation and build that brand where people want to do business with you so you don't have to hard sell? Well, I think it starts with, especially in these times, stopping the coupons and the promotions. Focus on branding first, not selling. Talk about your brand, your company, your why, your value proposition. Those things are important. Leverage creative and original content. It doesn't have to be professional photos, professional videos, but again, talk about your story, your quarantine story, whatever it might be that's interesting, that's different. Produce thought leadership content. I'm seeing some realtors do this. I'm seeing some businesses do this. They're talking about their knowledge. They're giving away the farm, which is something we do at Be Connected. And honestly, in this day and age with the YouTube and Google, any of the information you have, people can probably already find on the internet. And so why not put it out there on a platform and serve it up for people and help them, educate them, because people want to do business with experts. And I take that back to my time in real estate. I was a part-time realtor, and I realized people don't really want to work with a part-time realtor. They want to work with the best realtor, the one who knows the most, who cares the most. And thought leadership content is a great way to prove all of those things and show those things. So prioritize building your community. This is a really great time to build your community around social. Build up more advocates, and you do that by being responsive, by asking open-ended questions, by engaging, and more original content, more thought leadership content, because that's part of how we get to that product. Focus on adding value to your followers' newsfeed. This is more of a thought process, and think of it this way. If you're going to post content that you wouldn't like yourself, what's the point of posting it? Especially if it's promotional. But if you're adding value by being a thought leader, by creating original content that's entertaining, engaging, uplifting, funny, then you will be adding value, and you will give them reason to follow you. And then highlight your client's voice. You can do this through testimonials. You can do this through telling their story, having them on your podcast if you have one. But talk about them. Let the customer be the champion. If you've read a lot of business books like me, you've probably heard that a lot. And it's true, because nothing sells your brand better than a happy customer. And then as we kind of wrap this up on this slide here, we talk about celebrating small victories. If your company is successful and you have victories, consumers want to deal with companies and individuals who are successful. And the final thing is, if you want to sell, spend more money on ads. That's a good place to do it. Facebook ads, Instagram ads, whatever. But the byproduct of these things are people should want to do business with you if you're producing that kind of content that adds value to their feed. So let's see what works for local businesses. And there's a few examples of businesses who are selling by indirectly selling. And I'm going to show you a few. So here's Katsuya of Japan. They have 3 locations. And on the left here, they talked about a message that they sent to their valued customers. To me, that says, we appreciate you. Here's how this has impacted our business, and here's what we're going to do. On the right, a business is shut down. So it's really hard to create content if your business is shut down. While they might be serving takeout, what else do? You go to your archive. Hopefully you have a Google Drive or a Dropbox where you have a lot of files, folders, images, and you get something and you say, hey, Throwback Thursday. let's throw it back to a time when we could dine in the restaurant, but we know that it's important for social distancing. We can't do this. So they're embracing the social distancing, which is great. And they say, hey, looking forward to brighter times. So they're being optimistic, and hashtag stay strong, safer at home. So again, they're supporting this at maybe a time a few weeks ago when people were, a little upset that we couldn't go out and do these things. And so a couple of examples of what you could do if you were a local restaurant. We've got more examples like that coming right up. Here's Women's Care, a business, that organization that's certainly been impacted like most of us. And why not put a message out there? Grab your phone, create a video, and say, we miss you to all your valued customers. They probably want to see you as much as you want to see them. And so why not connect with them? This is the best time to do it. But the problem is that many of us get a little nervous and apprehensive to get in front of the camera. Like, why would people want to hear from me? What do I have to say? Great time to tell your quarantine story. Talk about how it's impacting you. And again, key there is, if you want to build community, you have to be vulnerable and you have to get in front of the camera. And maybe this week it's you, and maybe next week it's one of your colleagues, and so on and so forth. But this is a really great way to connect with people. And I'm using that word a lot because it's important to connect with your audience. The second post is talking about postponing current and upcoming appointments. And so they're giving updates on what they can and can't do. And again, if you want to reduce the amount of incoming phone calls being a clinic or a medical facility, certainly you want to make sure you're updating people on your social media. So they're letting people know in advance that, hey, we're going to be postponing these things. And here's phone number and email where you can connect with people if you want more information. And then on the right, obviously, physical therapy, yoga, something people can't do right now. So why not bring it to them? Why not do a video? You can set your phone up on a bookshelf or a tripod, and you can create a short informational, instructional video to help people do these things from home. And again, thought leadership content, connecting with your clients. Nobody expects it to be perfect, but a little bit of value can go a long way. Quick Trip. Everybody knows Quick Trip. Everybody loves Quick Trip, as far as I know. They do a phenomenal job on social media. And what's interesting is they don't have a ton of really, really high-end content. They just have a lot of content that features their customers and features their employees. So they really celebrate their people. And it's kind of surprising to a certain degree. We don't see a ton of content that is focused around selling product. I mean, occasionally you'll see a sale on butter and Mountain Dew and coffee or Glazers, whatever, but ultimately it's people-centric. And I think that's part of what sells on Quick Trip. These are some simple things that I really like that resonated with me on their page, but it says, yes, we're open. Our retail workers are dedicated to serving your in-store local communities now more than ever. Thank you to everyone. And so they're really thanking their teams, their people first, because they know that they're putting their health at risk and potentially their lives at risk by going and working in the stores to serve their customers. And people need those Glazers right now more than ever, right? So I like that. Being thankful, having gratitude, being appreciative. There's no better time. You should always be practicing gratitude on social, but this is one that says thank you. The one on the right, they do a lot of customer testimonials and customer thank yous. And they have one here talking about, drawing a smiley face, and your smile is more important than ever. Never forget how much I appreciate all that you're doing. And again, cool stuff, keeping the positivity alive, good vibes, good thoughts, practicing love. You could do this very simply using a customer testimonial. You could grab one off of Google reviews. You could ask one of your customers to write you one. And then you could use a program like Canva, and you could create a post like this. Pretty cool. And like I said before, nothing sells your business better than a happy client or happy customer. Here's Verve Credit Union. Again, another business that's been impacted, like many of us. While they might be open per se, there's a lot that they can't do. And so the one on the left, they're very community focused and community driven. And so their people are out in the community all the time, helping a lot of youth programs like this one, which is teaching financial literacy. they can't do it. So why not grab something from the archives and talk about how they're missing the impact they can make in the community, but they're looking forward to what they're going to be doing in the future. And that to me is pretty cool, because there are a lot of businesses that are community focused, and we all want to get back out and do these fun things. And so let's highlight some of the cool things we have done last year as a reminder to people. Merv the Verve on the right, he's practicing social distancing, talking about it. So he's embracing it, encouraging other people to do the same, because that's important right now. And then talking about just what are you doing to indulge in your extra time? So they're asking open-ended questions to get engagement in a natural, organic way. And it's great. Again, connecting with your followers, connecting with your community. And if you take that time and you do respond to the answers, I think you'll be surprised. I've seen some really good correspondences with businesses doing this, and people want to share it right now. You know, they're thirsty to interact with people more than ever. Here's 313 Dodge, a business that has been positively impacted by this. I had the chance to talk with them last week, and they serve somewhere north of, I think, 350 craft cocktails from their facility last weekend. And how cool is that? So what's interesting is they've pivoted, and that's one thing that a lot of businesses could and should do. So you're put in a time like this where you have to adapt to the times. And what do? You serve takeout. You focus on takeout. You adapt your business. You move your cash register to the windows like the picture on the left, and you do walk up craft cocktails and charcuterie boxes to go. And the funny thing is that they've been so successful that they've actually sold out. They've been sold out the last couple weekends of charcuterie boxes. And it's something you're probably not going to make with the limited amount of things you have in your fridge or your pantry at home. And to further embrace it, you know, they've put a logo on there. They learned that they wanted to do some branding. They've also put posts up to help people understand curbside pickup. So do you come up to the window? Yeah, you can, but you can also park right here, as it shows in the middle post, and we'll bring it out to your car for touchless pickup if that's important to you. And so they're talking about how they're taking this seriously. They're practicing hygiene here and being safe with gloves and whatnot. And they're continuing to highlight their ever-changing charcuterie box. This is an organization I think has done really well, and a lot of small restaurants that are looking to up their game right now and over the next couple of weeks should take a page out of their book. And they've gotten in front of the camera. They're posting regularly. They've got a ton of questions that they're responding to. And it sounds like their business is up because of what they've been doing with social and their to-go orders. And I think it's a sign that people really do want to support local small businesses here more than ever. Here's a really cool business. This is Ben Shot. They make glassware, so not eyewear, but glassware you drink from. And it's hard to see, but they actually put a bullet, that's one of their signature products, pushed into the glass. It's kind of glued and secured in. And what they've done is they've shut down their business, but they've reopened their facility. And they're still paying all their people, but they're asking people who want to come in to make masks and gowns. And they're doing it, they're volunteering. They've also created packages for people to come and pick up materials to make masks, which is super cool. So you call ahead, leave a box outside for you, and you can sew your own masks, bring them back, and they're going to donate them to first responders and other people on the front line. And again, they've created a product right here on the right that says essential, because they're supporting all the essential people who are out there helping keep the world safe today. And what a cool business and a cool story that's pivoted. And if you do buy their product or buy their glass, they're going to donate money back to the first responders. And I really like this. For other businesses that have adapted and have pivoted, it goes to show that you can get a ton of support. The engagement is up. They're selling a ton of these essential glasses because of it. And something we didn't expect to happen, but in a matter of a couple of days, they said, hey, you know what? We're going to support essential workers. And it's turned out very well. And because of it, if you think of it this way, if you're an e-commerce business and you collect hundreds or thousands of new emails because of this, you can use that in your email marketing. You could use those emails potentially in your Facebook marketing. So for example, you could upload those email addresses and you could send them emails, targeted emails or targeted, advertisements on Facebook. So how cool is that? Here's another small business that unfortunately had to close for the quarantine temporarily. And so your dance studio, you have to stay 6 feet apart of people. What do? Well, you talk about your family. You be vulnerable. You get in front of the camera. You talk about what you're doing at home. This is a business that's more intimate, where you're connected closely with your customers. You probably know a lot about them. And if you have a business like that, whether you're a chiropractor, a spa, masseuse, maybe a hair care center of some sort, people want to know what's going on in your life. And if you stop posting because you're shut down, people are they're gonna wonder what's going on. And so why not talk about, hey, we adopted a new puppy. Come see our cool puppy. Everybody loves puppies. Tell people you miss them. There's nothing wrong with that. I think these are a couple great examples of what you can do if you're a very small business that's non-essential, that's shut down temporarily. And then the third post on the right is a blooper reel. It is a bunch of bloopers cut out from videos that they have produced in the past that didn't make the cut. And they said, hey, what better time to make fun of ourselves than right now? Everybody needs a good laugh, and why not have one at our expense? And so I really like that. Shows the lighter side of what they do, and hopefully what you do too. So let's get into some different tactics. You saw a whole bunch of businesses. I could show you a lot more, but we talked earlier in this presentation about making sure your page is up to date. Here are a few things. I would encourage everyone to go to their page and just make sure that your URL for your website, your hours of operation, and your phone number. I'm guessing there are a lot of businesses that have not changed their hours of operation. A lot of businesses, even essential businesses like Festival Foods and Pick and Save, have changed their hours of operation. And so even if it is an hour or half hour, I encourage you to do that, because you'd hate for someone to show up when they think you're open, but you're not. That's a good way to upset a customer. And unfortunately, it happens all too often. So you're looking for other ideas and tactics, leverage user-generated content. This is a little business that I own in Appleton. And when someone shares a piece of content, I look at it as, well, that's one less thing I have to worry about posting. I will reshare something that they posted. And this was on Instagram. Now, both these posts are. And you can use a tool called repost or reshare. And it allows you to reshare something within Instagram. But unfortunately, that functionality does not exist on Instagram. So you need a third-party app to do it. And again, we say this a lot, but nothing is more believable than other customers who love your business. And it's a bit of an affirmation, because if your customers and prospective customers see other people having fun doing something that you have, which is your restaurant, your spa, your salon, whatever it might be, they're going to say, we need to do that too. That looks like a great restaurant. So another one that's going to be another interesting conversation coming out of this post-COVID-19 is talent acquisition. There's going to be a lot of people looking for jobs, and while there might be a lot available now, it is important that if that is a goal within your business, that you are supporting your talent acquisition efforts. And so there's a couple things you can do. And it doesn't have to be, hey, we're hiring, because that is not necessarily appealing. But you need to have a macro approach. When I say a macro approach, I mean proactive approach, not reactive approach to anything in social media or digital marketing. If you know you're going to have to hire people regularly, whether it be once a quarter, twice a quarter, or even 4 or 5 times a year, you should always have a little bit of content on your page that supports, in this case, talent acquisition. So I really like the one from Eagle Performance Plastics, which talks about average employee tenure. 9.9 years is a lot. In this day and age of millennials dominating the workforce, that is not a normal thing. And so if people work there on average for 9.9 years, that tells me something pretty positive about the company. And I have no reason to believe a manufacturer would manufacture that number. On the left, we have VF Outdoor, which talks about their product pride. They're celebrating outdoor enthusiasts. They're smiling. They embrace the products that they sell. And that, to me, is pretty appealing. And so talking about their story, about how they started the company in 1967, and oh, by the way, we're hiring, right? So they're taking a lot of pride in what they do. They're celebrating that. And it looks like a group of people who love doing what they do. And that's another conversation we could dive a lot deeper into, but I think that a social media strategy needs to be wide and diverse. For those people that are asking me, how can I pick up more social media followers and get more people to our page? Well, you can start by putting it in your email signature. It's just as simple as this. It could be a link to your LinkedIn page. It could be something to your personal LinkedIn page, to your website. But if you're like me and you send and receive over 100 emails a day, then just imagine if 20% of those people clicked on one of those links. And then if you're anything like me, you're looking for the email signature to get someone's phone number, to check out their website if it's a solicitation. And so I think a lot of us forget how we can improve our email signatures and drive traffic to our site and or social media pages. Leveraging stories is another one that I'm guessing a lot of businesses haven't done in the past. And the story feature, if you see the post on the left, is a story. There are other apps you can download to make them look fancier, like I have here on the left. And you can also pin them to your page, which are the 4 icons you see above the pictures and below the page description. And stories are great because right now, about 60% of the pages are currently using stories, whereas most of them post directly to the news feed. So what that means and how it's advantageous for you is that there's less inventory in stories. That's going to change. More and more people will continue to use them individually and from a business standpoint. But because there's fewer competitors to go through in the stories section, that means you are more likely to stand out. And that is one of the reasons I really like stories for businesses, small businesses or local businesses. Interesting stat by Hootsuite said that 64% of marketers have either already implanted Instagram stories into their strategy or are aiming to do so in the next 12 months. They've tried it, but they're not doing it actively. So I would encourage a lot of businesses to do this. I really like it. Another great way to repurpose old content that maybe you haven't used in a while. Let's see, I think we do have a question here. Let's jump into gift cards. So Facebook's going to be doing something coming up soon if they haven't already rolled it out, but they're talking about helping the small businesses that have been impacted by this virus. And they're going to be rolling out a tab that you'll see on the app specifically for gift cards. And they're testing it right now in beta, and they're planning on making it available to everyone within the next week or so. And it just allows, think of it as like the Facebook Marketplace, but for local gift cards. So it'll know your location and it will show you restaurants and local stores, shops that are selling their gift cards, whether it be at regular price or promotion. And it gives you an opportunity to allow consumers and businesses to support you during these challenging times. Unfortunately, I don't have a lot of information about that, but I would say that any little shop or boutique or salon service business, something that they should definitely take advantage of. And I would be an early adapter to this because I do think that there's going to be a lot of people who are going to want to help out local businesses if they can. The next thing, and I would encourage a lot of businesses to do this. I would encourage individual professionals to do this as well. And it's starting a podcast. You can do it very simply through tools like Buzzsprout. You can also create a video show like this for YouTube, for Facebook, Instagram Watch. But podcasts and shows are great. This is a really great opportunity for thought leadership content. We do it at Be Connected. We have, something called The Spun Show. And it is where we bring in people, friends of the business, colleagues, clients, and have them tell their story and teach people. And what's really awesome is that if you are a financial advisor, if you're in healthcare, if you're in legal, and you're in an industry just where people have a lot to talk about, even landscaping, is an opportunity for you to further connect and build that relationship with people. And as a byproduct, if they see your passion, your knowledge, and your experience, they're more likely want to do business with you after that. And so again, another subject that we could talk about for minutes upon minutes upon minutes, but we're going to get into wrapping this up here. One of the last ones I'm going to talk about is storytelling. And the one thing I go into a lot is I go to an About Us page on a website and I see a timeline. And we started our business in 1985 In 1987, we got our first patent. In 1989, we put an extension on. In 1995, we hired our 25th person. That's a little boring in most cases. And so focus on your story. Tell the story about the adversity, the challenges, the things that you've overcome to find success, all the patent rejection letters. Those are the things that are interesting. And so instead of thinking about a timeline that sells your business, talk about the story, because that's what people connect with. That is what's interesting. That's what people want to read. And so if you're posting snippets or chunks of that on social media, like we did for Beige Engineering here, they're telling a story about how I believe Dave is retiring. And instead of just saying, hey, happy retirement, Dave, thanks for your 35 years of service, they told a story about Dave. And if you have someone who's worked their way up from entry level to management level, executive level, and tell the story about how they took advantage of the college tuition reimbursement program and how they did it as a single mother, single father. And that is what's interesting. Again, that's how people connect. And I use that word connect a lot because it's important. And so tell your why, tell that story instead of just saying happy anniversary, happy retirement. All right. So we don't have time to do a deep dive, but I do have plenty of time for questions, and I want to make sure that I can interact with everybody who has them. This is my information if you'd like to connect in the Q&A section or later. I certainly welcome that, but I just want to say thank you to everyone who tuned in and listened. We really just scraped the surface on all of this today. There's so much more we could have and I wanted to talk about, but I certainly more importantly hope that everyone's staying home, they're healthy, staying connected, and I'm confident that all of this will be over soon in the coming weeks or months or sooner. And I certainly want to do anything I can to help anyone who's interested. So feel free, please, to reach out either in the Q&A or down the road. And I'd love to help as many people as I can.
Hey, Chris, there are two questions in the Q&A, if we could cover those. The first one from Kimberly: we are actively seeking user-generated content, but not getting the volume that we would like. How do you recommend trying to get that kind of engagement?
Sure. So the one thing that I've done is I've just reused the things that people have posted. So if you have tools like Sprout Social or Hootsuite, it will allow you to see what other people are saying about your brand. So if they tag your brand or use your hashtag, if you're not finding it, if people are not actively like checking into on your page on Facebook, you can go through a search on Instagram or Twitter, and you could do hashtag XYZ business, whatever your business name is, and you might pop up. So check any type of hashtags that are related to your business. You could also, if you're struggling to find that content, you could do a Google search through Google Images. But ultimately, you might have to start a campaign. And without being able to ask more questions about your specific business or industry, I would say that if you're moving into, let's say, summer is your season, and we know we're going to be out of this quarantine in a couple of weeks, I would start running campaigns that say, hey, show us your pictures. We want to see you at our salon. We want to see you at our restaurant. Put signs up in your facility and let people know that you want to see it on social. I've seen that at salons and spas. I've seen it at restaurants where they can incentivize people to do that stuff, but it does take time and it does take a lot of effort. But the more active your business is on social, the more likely our people are to post content, user-generated content on social. And again, might be more information to this conversation, and I'd love to connect with you offline.
Perfect, thank you. Another question from Emily: we've seen a large uptick in social media traffic since quarantine started.
Great.
When analyzing social media platforms, should we consider this activity or look at the data before the quarantine?
I would do both. I would say if you have the capability, like through a Sprout Social or Hootsuite or something else, to look at data from 2019, look at big picture annual data, and then look at like the month before, so say January, March, and then look at quarantine data. And just try to draw a parallel if you can. Maybe if you're posting more, maybe you can attribute to that. But I attribute it to more people being at home, more people having downtime, more people searching. Remember that there are a lot of people who are on mandatory furloughs, people who are temporarily laid off. So there are a lot more people who have extra time to do searching for things that they want to do. So whatever it is, if you're doing something different, keep doing it, keep trying to connect. And if anything, do more, because when this changes and when the quarantine's gone, some of us will go back to work and we won't have the time to search. So if they're connecting with you now, what can you do to further connect when this is over? So a lot of us were quick to adapt, but how are we going to adapt again when this is over? And that's the other thing, is keep the connection, maintain it. You might have to do more on social. And again, another conversation I'd love to continue down the road.
Perfect, thank you. Couple more that came in recently from Bradley. Would you suggest running the same content over all of the social media platforms you engage with, or should you have different goals for each social media platform?
Good question. I get this one a lot. I talk about this frequently. In a perfect world, which we don't live in, I would say the content would be, and the copy would be slightly different on each platform. So if I follow the chamber on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, I see the same post over and over, I'm likely to tune them out on one of the two platforms. And I'm not saying that's wrong or that you shouldn't do that, but I do connect with some businesses on multiple platforms. I connect with the Green Bay Packers on multiple platforms, and the content is sometimes slightly different, and I like that. So this gets back to the bandwidth point I made early on. If your bandwidth is 1 to 2 hours a week, you probably don't have a lot of time to change things up. But if you can, maybe just tweak the copy. So change the written word for each platform, and occasionally mix things up if you can. But again, that's hard, because if you don't have a luxury of a big content library, then maybe you can't do that. But if you have the time, I would encourage you to start to play with that.
Perfect. Next one, Jonathan has a question in regards to Google My Business. So his question is, Google My Business and no-click searching is increasing in prevalence. What do you believe are the short and long-term disadvantages and advantages of relying even more heavily on Google?
Yeah, I would say with digital marketing, or as anything, you don't want to put all your eggs in one basket ever. I hear other entrepreneurs say this, is that it could be something where, like Vine, it could disappear someday. Facebook could decline and turn into MySpace in 3 or 4 years. I doubt that'll happen, but you want to make sure that your digital marketing strategy is diverse and wide. And while Google is the biggest player and probably will be for a while, and if you look at their stock price, they're trending, I think, north of $1,000. They're the premier search engine, and no one comes close. I would continue to focus on Google My Business. It's very important. If Google wants you to do that because they think that you're going to rank higher on social, not social, but in search rankings, I would do it. It's impacted my business. But I also think the next wave is going to be voice search. So through Alexa, and I'm sure she's going to start talking to me now, through Google Home, the Apple device, through your phones, there's more and more search results and search happening via voice than ever before. People are buying product through these search devices, the voice search devices. And so that would be the thing that I would think about next and do research on. We're probably maybe a couple years away from that being a dominant force or really, really happening, but it's going to be more and more voice. Everything is voice activated. Everything's connected in homes. And so I would say do a little bit of everything, have a good, strong, diverse recipe, but continue that voice research.
Great. A couple more that just came in. Ann Thielman is wondering if there is a best time to post on Facebook.
Yeah, there are good times to post. It does vary by audience. And so they should tell you when your audience is most active. And the thing about that's really interesting is if it says your audience is most active on, let's say, 5 to 7 p.m., you don't want to post at 5:30 or 6 p.m. because then you're bound to miss a bunch of those people. But this is an average. It's an algorithm. So if it's 5 to 7, post at 3 o'clock. You want to get it out there before that time frame so that if those people do sign on early, hour, half hour, whatever, they see it. But also, if that post gets engagement before the bulk of your audience, your core supporters sign on, it's going to be shown to more and more people. So it is important to post on peak times, but also try non-peak times. You might be surprised. If you just post at random times throughout the day, all the time, it'll give you a pretty good idea of what's working and what's not. But I would also encourage you to try different times, because over time, as you grow your audience, it's going to change, and the patterns and behaviors of your audience will change. So that time frame may be a little bit later, may get a little bit earlier. Right now, you're probably seeing a little bit more random because everybody's home and a lot less people are working. But I think if we're in a non-COVID-19 world, you'd see more bell curve trends like AMs on LinkedIn and PMs on Facebook. And lunch hours too is pretty common.
Excellent. One more question that just popped up here from Tish. What are your thoughts on separate our story and history timeline pages versus covering both in one page? Separate pages would seem more advantageous for companies that have been in business a long time and have a lot of significant events, which would warrant a separate history page. But otherwise, is one combined page the better recommendation?
Yeah, if you have that luxury, 2 pages is great. The more quality content you have on your site, the better off you'll be with Google. But again, the key word is quality. So if you think it's good, that's one thing. But if you think your followers and your prospective clients will find it good, then post it first. Put it up there for sure. Make sure that anytime you're adding to your site, you've got several sets of eyes editing it. But if you have an older business that's been around for a long time, I think that's great. Definitely do it.
Excellent. Just one more thing that popped up, Chris, and I believe I already know the answer to this, but you are able to share the slides. We can send those out to all attendees, correct?
Yeah, I'm happy to do that. And I do have more time if anybody wants to ask additional questions. I'm happy to hang out here for another 10 minutes or so if they keep coming in.
Okay, so if anybody else does have questions, feel free to post them up. I think that we've covered everything that is currently open, both in the Q&A and also in the chat feature. And just to reconfirm, I can, we will send out both the recorded version of this along with your slides specifically, and also that survey to garner feedback from attendees today on the presentation. But feedback looks like it's been great. Sounds like everybody's found this to be very helpful. Hopefully the businesses in the community will be able to use this information to carry them through this challenging time, and we can all be back together again, hopefully very soon.
Yeah, thanks so much, everybody. Have a great day.
Oh, hold on 1 second. Actually, something just popped up.
Cool.
Elizabeth is wondering, I know you mentioned not to sell things directly on social media. Do you think it is okay to sell via their web pages?
So you can sell via social, but I really want to put an emphasis on not making it the priority. So it should not be the bulk of your posting. It should be the minority for sure. Occasionally throw it in there that you have great products, but focusing on promotions and sales is not a good one, because people just don't respond to that. I don't, and I know a lot of consumers don't. We all get up when a commercial comes on TV. For those that still watch regular TV, we don't actively want to read advertisements in magazines. But yeah, it is okay, and you should sell on your website. That is one of the primary goals, particularly if you're e-commerce or you're a service-based business like a spa or salon. And so it's good to do it, but make sure it's a smaller mixture. Focus on the value first. And again, another conversation I'd love to continue offline if you're interested.
Perfect. I think that's it. That's everything that I've seen come through. Again, Chris's information will be shared via these slides, and also, just in general in the follow-up email. So it sounds like he does encourage everybody to reach out if you have additional questions or would like to further conversation in regards to the topics discussed today. But other than that, I think we will wrap up and give everybody a little bit more time back in their day. But we invite everybody to join us on Thursday. We have another webinar at 11 a.m. And again, just keep an eye on our foxcitieschamber.com website for more information about upcoming events. Thanks, Chris.
Thanks, guys.
Have a great day, everybody.
You too.